Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of Money Talk. It's not just about money, is it? Sometimes all the money in the world will never buy our health back. And today we're going to talk about a couple of things, not just about money and how it affects you, but how your health affects your money. Yep, that's right. When's the last time you had a complete deep sleep? I mean, a deep sleep. I can't even remember. I wake up so many times at night, I can't even count them. Forget sheep. I count the number of times I'm up. That's not a great thing. Well, how about the last time you ate a complete meal that had your full set of vitamins and minerals, everything that your body needs? Well, stay tuned because we are going to be talking about this in just 1 second. I have a health expert, and what better way to get our year started than to talk about the things that are most important, the thing that money can't buy. Linda gave me the courage, the confidence to move forward.
And after I was finished with Linda K's training, I was at the next level.
It's Linda K. But when you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, I have something to say, you know you've got something to do.
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda K.
And we're back. And as I said, what could be more important than the very thing that money can't buy? How much would you pay to have a good night's sleep? How much would you pay to feel great? What if the very person that you lost and you loved the most in life had 5 more minutes? What would you pay for that? See, that's priceless, isn't it? So today we're going to talk about the word complete. And what better way to talk about that than to talk about this with a registered nutrition health consultant, a health and life coach, and CEO of Complete Health Revolution. Let's welcome to the stage, Jen Beck.
Hey, Linda, it's so great to see you.
It's so great to see you. Now, I don't know if you've got fantastic lighting or I just look like I'm part vampire and I'm so pale. I know. It's the white shirt. Talk to me about what does complete health mean? When you say complete, what are we talking about?
Body, mind, and soul, right? I mean, so often what I find is that many people are chasing health. They're looking for the next diet. They're looking for the next pill. They're looking for the next workout. What's the next thing that's going to get me my health back, get me my waistline back? And so often we're missing the fact that there is a mind-body connection. And if we are not living fulfilled, we will fill ourselves with everything else under the sun.
Even when we feel full.
Yes, absolutely. You know, and that filling looks like different things. Sometimes it's sugar, sometimes it's wine, sometimes it's overworking, over exercising, over Netflixing. And so it's really a matter of that complete health of body, mind, and soul, living a fulfilled life that works for us, and then having the health to support it.
That's, you say a lot there. And sometimes it's mind over body, right? It's, mind, they say mind over matter. How do you know you've kind of overdone it? Now, some things leave real obvious clues, but when you're talking about the complete person, when you're talking about the very thing that, we are supposed to be the guide, right? We have this internal governor that says, okay, that's enough, or that wasn't enough, or we need to get more sleep, what are some of the clues that we're leaving that says, hey, we're just not quite doing it right?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest things or biggest indicators are our energy and our mood. If you're not waking up in the morning ready to bounce out of bed, think about a kid on Christmas morning or the first day of vacation. You don't have to drag yourself out of bed. You bounce out of bed on those mornings because you're optimistic, you're excited, you're enthusiastic, and chances are you probably got a good night's rest. Well, maybe on those nights you're prepping for vacation and things like that. But it's really the vitality that we feel in a whole being. You know, some of the indicators that things aren't working is we are exhausted by the end of the day. We're living on sugar or caffeine. We're finding ourselves eating later in night because we're trying to either catch up on calories or we're trying to fill in some kind of a void, whether we need a treat at the end of the day or we're rewarding ourselves for having such a long day and we made it through, or we just need that little bit of unwinding. So if we're overstressed or we're really lagging throughout the course of the day, those are two really clear indicators that what we're doing isn't working. In addition to looking at the quantitative ways of evaluating our health, like our lab reports, looking at our glucose level or A1C getting high blood pressure, high cholesterol, those are indicators of what's not working, as well as our weight. If your waistline is expanding without you wanting it to, without being pregnant, right? If your waistline is expanding, that's probably a good indicator that things aren't quite working and aren't quite dialed in for your better good.
So now you bring up a couple of good topics. Is it just an age thing, that, we're busy as young adults, we are less busy as we are approaching retirement age? Is it just an age thing that this is all about?
I don't think so. So when we're born, we have trillions of stem cells, which is our healing cells. And so, yes, we do heal faster when we're younger. Our bodies can tolerate a lot more of the junk that we feed it. It can rebound faster from lack of sleep and from stress. So, yes, we do have an advantage when we're younger. But how many of us know somebody that is 90 years old and they're still kicking it? Or somebody that is 60 and 70 years old that is like on the go versus sitting in a nursing home waiting to die. Like there's a big difference. So it's not just about age. It's about what we chose to create throughout the course of our life.
That's so, so true. My mom, who is 92 and kicking it, still full of vitality, she gets up at that same time every single morning, goes to bed at almost exactly the same time every night, and takes a couple of naps in the day. I think 92, you might be entitled. She also finds that she's got a serious regiment about, and she's serious about it. She takes what she's eating consistently for breakfast every day. How many of us are skipping meals and doing things how does that stack up over time? What does that do to us?
Oh, so much. So I can tell you that when I was in my 20s, I used to live on sugar, caffeine, and fast food and lean cuisines. I didn't know how to cook, and I really didn't have any knowledge about nutrition. And I was struggling through the day. I was literally dependent on caffeine and sugar to make it through. Now,
isn't everybody kind of dependent on something?
Yes and no. I mean, when I was in my 20s and I was living like that, I needed something. Today, I'll be 50 in 5 months, 4.5 months. And I have better energy and feel better and have better health than I did in my 20s. So,
what are you doing? Tell me about, let's start with nutrition. Because obviously we hear it all the time. If you get a good meal, you get a good night's sleep, you're ready to go. But that's just not quite it, is it?
It is that simple, and we overcomplicate it so much. I mean, there's 100 different dietary theories, and you know what all of them have in common? None of them have been personalized for you.
You mean
so? I have an acronym.
One size fits all doesn't fit all.
Do you know anybody that's been on a diet that's really worked really well for them and it didn't work for you?
Right? I had a friend tell me that about his mom, and his mom was, this might have been the 70s, okay? And she belonged to a health and fitness group. Today we call them clubs, right? Or we go to work out in them. But back then they were support groups for each other to lose weight. And he said, in the 30 years that she belonged to that club, I never saw her weight fluctuate a pound. So sometimes we do things like this because it's community. Today we do community in a different way. We're no longer connected physically. We're no longer meeting somebody for lunch or meeting somebody. We take a breakfast meeting maybe sometimes, but almost everything is this hybrid. How do we balance this and come into a little bit better focus for us for better health and more pleasure in building this sense of community, not just ourselves?
Yeah, I think community is huge. I work with a lot of high achievers, and they are known for powering up and powering through and being everything to everyone. And many of them struggle with isolation and lack of connection because they've been doing so much. And we forget about the being part. And one of the things I encourage them to do is get out and get into community. I've got one gal who has really struggled with her weight throughout the course of the years. And one of the things that she found was transformative for her was starting to go to meetup groups. And I don't know that she's found her dream meetup group yet, but she's exploring and she's putting herself out there and she's connecting. And as a result of taking that one step, she's really enhanced her relationships with her family. She's scheduling dates with her kids and friends and really being intentional about connection. And it's fulfilling her life. And she is not filling her body with Netflix and snacks in the evening. And she is so much more joyous, and the weight is starting to melt off. So getting into community is so important.
That's a wonderful story because, a simple, small adjustment. We're not talking about big fixes. We're not talking about surgery. We're not talking about taking on another prescription. A simple, small adjustment in what she did, netting really big results. What are some of the other things that you recommend to you do these nutritional plans, you do these whole person or complete sets for individuals. So are they a template that you just, make one or two adjustments here and there for, sort of a cookie cutter kind of, or a pie, a framework that you can work within and then customize it from there?
Yes, and you might be shocked to hear that I don't actually give people plans.
I am surprised.
Because I want you to think about it this way. If I give you a plan and I go, Linda, go do this plan. And you can do it. Most people can follow a plan for a while. Maybe it's a couple days, maybe it's a couple weeks, maybe it's a few months. But what happens when stress happens? We go on vacation, the holidays come around, we get off the plan, and then we don't go just a little bit off the plan. We go way off the plan. We go, I'll get back to it when I can do the plan again.
That's what high achievers do. Go big or go home, right?
Right. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And if we don't personalize it. So yes, the template is whole foods. Fill your plate with as many vegetables as you possibly can. Add in some protein, add in a little bit of healthy fat. But you've got to be able to create it in a way that works for you. Because if we're working off a stoic plan or a static plan, it doesn't work for our lifestyle. So I really teach people how to understand what works for their body, right? Get down to the nitty gritty. Do you feel your best when you eat dairy or when you don't eat dairy? Do you feel better when you have steak or when you have chicken or when you have fish, or a combination? Right? We look at, I work a lot with people's metabolic design. So we're looking at how much protein, carbohydrates, and fat that somebody needs on a daily basis. And then out of those foods, out of those categories, which foods are ideal for your body? Because again, it goes back to the individual. If we're looking at somebody who's pre-diabetic, somebody who's diabetic, somebody has high cholesterol, somebody that wants to weight train, or somebody who wants to lose weight, they all have different needs to reach their goals efficiently, effectively, and be able to maintain them. And for me, the bigger part is the maintenance of whatever that goal is, instead of just reaching the goal. Because most people reach their goal and they go, whew, thank God I'm there. Now I can go back to what I was doing before.
Right. Now arriving at gate, right? So we think that was our destination.
Yeah.
So tell me why men's weight seems to literally drop off them. And I love to say, I gained an extra 20 from baby fat, but she's now 27. So that's no longer, pregnancy weight, right? So it's that stubborn weight that just stays with me. Why do men seem to just drop it off and women have a harder time?
I think that there's a several different reasons why that's true. If we look at weight loss resistance in general, there are 12 physical reasons why we hold on to weight. There are 8 emotional reasons why we hold on to weight. A really big component of the emotional reasons is safety. And so think about the Me Too movement. right? The women that have gone through any kind of abuse, whether it be sexual abuse or physical abuse, verbal, financial, spiritual, whatever that is, there is an element where there's a lack of safety. And what our body likes to do when we are unsafe is it likes to wrap us in protection
Oh,
right around our middle
feels so
section,
good.
right? And we shrink back into a wallflower status. We become less visible. We become less vulnerable. And that's just one reason why we hold on to extra weight. I think as we age, we develop hormonal imbalances. We have a lot of stress, so our gut gets all out of whack, and it's harder for us to be able to digest our foods. Men have typically a one-track mind, so if they go, "I'm doing this," this is what happens.
Well, and they also don't have that additional organ, that extra heart, where women feel things and men don't.
Yes,
Right?
right.
They kind of compartmentalize things and then, I'll worry about that later, or that
Yeah,
doesn't deserve my time. We internalize that, we live it, it becomes every part of our thought and our thought process. We can't
yeah.
shake it off. Men can seem to be able to shake off one of those 10. Do they even get any of those 8 emotional triggers, or the things
Ooh,
that you were just talking
yeah,
about?
absolutely. Absolutely, they do. For them, a lot of it is not
Smaller
enough.
dose then.
Sorry, say it again.
Do they just get a smaller dose then?
I think we all have various levels of different reasons why we carry extra weight. I mean, somebody that was bullied when they were younger will have more that they will carry around with them, more emotional weight that manifests physically.
If they
I
were
just got
abandoned
done
or
leading
negative
a
parents, and
sorry, Steve.
any of these emotional things like and childhood trauma, where a lot
Yeah,
of this really seems to stem if we as an adult look back at the life of that child, the child that got, that heard, no, stop crying, go over there and sit down. They're
yeah,
traumatized. We forget about it as a parent, but they've internalized this. But somewhere in their psyche, in their DNA, they've now stored this emotional memory that triggers something for them. Whereas we could look at it as an adult, maybe time travel back to that time when you were that kid. Do we still feel the same way and heal that child? I think what I'm hearing you say is that we're healing it in a way that we don't even know that we're not even aware that it's there, that it's just triggering us. And we're finding, oh, I don't know, why do a small bag of potato chips when I'm going to eat the whole thing, and followed by a
right.
carton of ice cream, right?
Yeah, we're just looking for that numbing. We're looking for that not feeling, because sometimes those feelings are so big. So I describe it like we store our emotions in our body like a warehouse of fireworks. And every time we have a negative emotion that we don't fully process, right? We don't actually feel the emotion. Maybe we get interrupted by something, or we have to power up and power through, but we don't go back and heal those and release those emotions. They just get stored in the warehouse of fireworks. Well, now we step into a situation that feels remotely similar. Dad was a yeller when I was a kid, and now I have a boss who's a yeller, who is emotionally immature or reactionary. So every time they start yelling or ranting, it's reminiscent, and it feels like a bottle rocket has just been shot into that warehouse of fireworks, and they all go off at once. Again, we feel unsafe, so our body goes into safety mode. So it's really a matter of if we don't address what's below the surface, it's really hard for us to change what's external,
Now you
because
bring
what
up a
we
good
experience
point. Hang on
manifests.
a second. You don't get to go past that one. How do we know what's there if we don't know what's there? So in other
Mm,
words, if we're not, look, if we're only using 10% of our conscious mind, or let's just say, 15% of our conscious mind, how do we know what's bubbling below the surface of that other 85 to 90%?
yeah, I think there's really two ways. One is to intentionally check in with where you're at and what you're feeling. So if you feel like you are having a reaction that is higher than what most people experience in that same scenario, that should be an awareness for you, or that should be a prompt for you to go, I wonder what's going on there. And you can
Mm,
start just noticing, right? If we want
yeah.
to create lasting change, we have to use ACT: awareness, concern, take action. And only
Oh,
when we have awareness can we make any action later on.
so awareness is just one piece of it. What was the C?
Concern.
So what part of us should be concerned, or are we taking concern before we take any kind of an action?
Yes, we have to be concerned enough about it. So if you start to become aware and you start to check in, like, how am I feeling? And it could be an hourly check-in, it could be a daily check-in. But start noticing how you're feeling on a daily basis. Am I feeling depressed? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling lonely? Those noticings will allow you to start becoming more aware of where your current state is. Then we can go, or if we're in a state where we get triggered, we can go, that's an interesting reaction to that. Not a judgment, but just interesting. And then we can start thinking about what age does that feel? Because a lot of times we can go, ooh, like that doesn't feel good. And we can go, what age does that feel? And we can notice if it's 4 years old or 10 years old or 6 years old. But we just have to pause long enough to check in.
How long does that take when you say pause and think about it and check in?
Like 10, 15 seconds maybe. Like it doesn't
Really?
take long.
Okay.
It's just like, what age does that feel?
Like,
And just trust
why
what comes up.
why did I blow up? Why did I react to that?
Yeah.
Or what am I feeling at this moment? You know, am I feeling in charge, or am I feeling lonesome? Or
Yeah.
It's so when you check in, then that instant thought is, what age is that? Why is that important?
Because when we can start to identify the age, then the next question is like, is there something that I remember happening at that age? Is there something there? So when I work with my clients, a lot of them come to me because of health issues. And there is almost always something that is underneath the surface that is keeping them stuck. We all know, Linda, that we should eat more chicken and broccoli than brownies and cookies. Like, it's not rocket science how to eat
Yeah,
healthy.
but can't we just hide the broccoli in the chocolate?
Yes, you actually can. Right, but it's looking at like, okay, we know that this is true, but why do we then go for the cookies and the brownies and the pretzels and all of the other stuff that doesn't serve us and doesn't get us where we want to go? Right. It's because we have all of these hidden drivers. So if I can just kind of give you a visual, if you think about, we want a different result, so we take a different action. And as long as we stay focused on that action, somebody wants to lose weight, so they go on a diet, right? They're cutting calories, or they're eating clean, or they're doing keto or carnivore, or whatever it is that they're doing. All of them have been proven to be successful at some point in time for some people. As long as we stay focused on that for long enough, we'll get that result. But then what happens when we get the result? Whew, thank God I'm there. And we go right back down
to the front of
to our
that
default.
dessert line, right?
What?
Lead me to the front of the dessert line. Right? We
go back to our old habits, which is our default, which is driven by our thoughts, our feelings, and our beliefs, which are created by our experiences, our influences, our programming, and conditioning. So if we don't address of why we do what we do, we're going to keep cycling back over and over and over again. So it's really understanding that there is so much below the surface. To your point, we use 10% of our conscious brain, but the conscious brain isn't what's running the show. There's a computer program in the background. Our conscious brain sometimes is the bug that's in the computer program that's not working. We're fighting ourselves.
Yeah, and then that conscious mind that comes back up, it seems to me like there's a crime and punishment department in that subconscious, also in that computer, that shows up on the shoulder, looks at you and says, "You're not going to wear that dress, are you? You don't even look good in that." To the point where it starts eating at our confidence. How are these things related? You just said really important things. Their thoughts or feelings. Our feelings are based on beliefs. And the belief system, how do we reprogram? That's a bad program.
Yeah, again, I will say it starts with awareness, because if you can identify the age, then the next question, when you have that itty bitty shitty committee in your back of your brain, right? Name it. Go, okay, there's a part of me that is worried about my ego. There's a part of me about worrying about looking stupid. There's a part of me that is criticizing myself right now. But the criticizing voice, Whose voice is that? Because it's not yours and it's not God's. It's nothing to do with your value, but someone at some point told you you weren't good enough, told you that you should question this, told you this, that, and the other. So the awareness piece is a huge component of being able to start shifting the narrative in our own brain. We've got to acknowledge it and go, you know what? That may have been true then. It's not now. I'm wearing this because it makes me feel good. Thank you for your input.
That little criminal in the act, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
It's the awareness and then it's the concern. Now that you're aware of it and you hear it, what's the next step in that?
Well, then it's like, is it serving me? Right? Okay. Is this really a kind, gentle, loving voice? Because your intuition is.
No, that's Cave Woman, and she shows up because she's desperate. She's coming from a point of scarcity. She's coming from a point of correctness. So she's coming from. In fact, I think she's the head. She is definitely the head of the itty bitty shitty committee. I love that. I think that's really good.
So and so we do have that, and then at the end is really looking at what do we want to choose to say to ourselves. A lot of my clients come to me because they get to the awareness part and then they feel stuck. Or to your point, they don't know what they don't know. They can't identify what's going on underneath the surface. They have blocked it out, or they just don't want to deal with it because they don't want to go through therapy and rehash all of the stuff that's in their life.
They have to?
They don't. They don't. That's the beautiful thing. So I've, for 23 years, I've been teaching people nutrition and lifestyle transformation and all of that, mindfulness and mindset. And then about 5 years ago, I started adding in emotional healing and energy healing modalities. So it's really looking at what are those hidden drivers, right? What are those experiences, those influences, the programming and conditioning that we took on as kids, or that we inherited? Because through epigenetics, it's not just what we experience. We inherit stuff through our cells with from our parents and our grandparents and their parents and so on and so forth. And so think about some of the emotions.
Hold on a second. Are you talking about something genetic that we can't do anything about? Or something that's in our DNA, like cellular memory of something? Talk to me a little bit so we know where that's coming from.
Yeah, great question. So we store our emotions in our body.
Right.
And when we do that, they get passed down through our cells, just like our personality traits.
Okay.
Right. So that informs a lot of how we show up as people, right? We think that some of it's through nurture, and it is, and some of it is through nature. You know, my dad was adopted and had a challenging situation. So my dad had some abandonment issues because it's really common in just about every person that's ever been adopted. Well, guess what I inherited? Some of my own abandonment issues, right? So even though I can be
adopted, you know who your parents are, you still have this. That's a very fascinating comment. Very interesting. Oh my goodness. So how does it show up then? You know, your dad is very aware. How did you become aware that that was the same issue for you?
For me, I had this belief for a really long time that everybody I loved would leave me. And my brain was looking for evidence of that to be true.
And so if it wasn't, would you insert it?
There was a forefront thought in my mind. So I was constantly looking at how many people were leaving me.
Interesting.
My parents got divorced. My mom moved. My dad took care of us. Then he traveled for work. So both of them are now gone, right? So it's like, and that just continued as a theme throughout the course of my life. Whether it was true or not, my perception at an unconscious level was that I was going to be left. And so I was constantly on the lookout for who was going to leave me next. And it was hard for me to really develop intimate relationships because I'd be like, oh, I really want to get to know you. I really do.
Guilty.
And I would only let them in so far.
Wow. That's deep. That is so deep. And many of us, can relate to what you just said on so many levels. That particular issue for me rings very, very true.
Mm.
And so once you become aware of it and you are concerned about it, now, and you've figured out where did that come from,
Yeah.
and you got all this information, what the heck do we do with this now?
Great question. So my early years, I went through therapy and I did journaling and I did all those pieces, and those were helpful, 100%. About 5 years ago, I found myself in a very toxic marriage and had really put myself on a shelf. And I just was so busy keeping the peace, trying to hold it together. I got married late in life because I was not going to get divorced. And here I am in this relationship, all the things. And
Oh,
I found an emotional healing modality that made such a profound shift. It's called Lift on Therapy. And what it does is it identifies the unconscious beliefs and it removes them and installs the positive one in its place. So if you think about affirmations, you say them 100,000 times, they eventually get stuck in your conscious brain and you can believe them. But the challenge is when we're in those situations where the bottle rocket goes into the warehouse of fireworks, our brain's not online. Our limbic brain, our reptilian brain, the one that carries all of the negative Nelly stuff, that's what goes into play. So Lift actually removes that and replaces it with the positive things at an unconscious level.
so now say what the acronym stands for.
Yeah,
You're
so
a
Lift
practitioner of this, and I want
Lift
our
is,
listeners to understand this.
yeah, so it's LIIFT. So it's life improving internal focus technique.
So it isn't just for people that are looking to lose weight or trying to
No.
figure out why they have, why they're stuck in a mindset. This
Yeah.
shift occurs for on any level that you're experiencing this emotion, whether
Yes.
it's trauma or grief or stress or emotional difficulties or even a failure to achieve, failure
Yes.
to thrive.
Yes.
I don't think I've heard anybody deal and have something called this expressive thing called lift that would address all of the areas that you're talking about, and then also add to that wonderful mechanic of your mind, of the practitioner of nutrition, of life balance, all the things that you're talking about. So did you come to this awareness of lift when you were going through something?
I was. I mean, it was in the middle of the worst part of my marriage. And like I said, I was in a state of depression and anxiety and just hopelessness. And I had been in therapy.
Hold on to that thought for a second.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for you to relive anything by any stretch of the imagination, but you became aware that this was the worst that you had felt in however many decades, right?
Yeah.
But this reptilian brain that goes, see, I just told you, right? So the things that are we're repressing or we think we fixed will come up in these moments of stress, and they show
Yes.
up in ugly, hideous ways. Cave woman has nothing on the reptile. That reptile is nasty, right? So what is the first step in the process of lift?
So the first step in the process of lift is really to create an intention of what you want to shift. For me, I just wanted to, and I don't even know that I had a definition for that, Linda. I think I just wanted to not feel like I did, to not be in that place where I just felt like there was no hope. And so I happened to meet Brian Eastman, who's the creator of Lyft, and he was at a networking event and he's like, hey, this is what I do. Would you like a session? I was like,
Okay.
yeah, I think I would. And so I came in and I said, this is where I'm at. And he goes, okay, great. Let's tap into your unconscious mind. And so we use muscle testing to be able to ask the unconscious yes or no questions, because our brain talks to us all day long.
Hold on. This theory, and I love where we're going to go with this because I can't wait to ask a few more questions. But for our listeners, understanding the muscle testing technique, explain what it is. It's been around, and it was really kind of, it's probably been around for eons, but we really didn't get a good dose of what is this until the late 60s, early 70s, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Muscle testing in itself. So the conscious and the unconscious knows exactly what's good or what's not good for us, whether it's a book, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a decision that we're about to make, and we can test it. We can get the information from the universe, from our universal source, right? Because our conscious mind is saying, oh no, I don't know. Yes, maybe no. Yeah, yes, maybe no. It could be a minute. And we stay in this state of indecisiveness. And what do I think about it? And how do I feel about it? Well, we can get an instant answer doing the muscle testing. So tell me how the muscle testing works.
So muscle testing is really asking yes or no questions. And so when I use muscle testing, I step in as a surrogate. So I can be, and this is, for those of you that are super analytical, I get it. I was that. It's going to feel a little woo-woo. So just stick with me.
Okay? Oh, woo-woo, it's away, baby. Come on.
And for those of you who want to play at home, you can do this yourself. You can literally stand up and close your eyes and think about positive things. Your body will respond to that, and it will naturally lean forward. Now, if you think about toxic things like war and hate and crime and nasty, your body will naturally lean away from that, and it'll lean backwards. Every single person, this is the exact same thing. The only challenge is if you're dehydrated, you may not get an accurate read. You may just kind of sit in the middle or do the opposite. So be fully hydrated and ask your body a yes or no question. Like, my name is Jen. I would naturally lean forward. If I said my name is Linda, it'd be like, nope, you are not.
Nope, you aren't. Mm-hmm.
Right? And so when you're standing up, you can do the sway test for yourself. You can hold a supplement against your chest, and you will either sway forward if it's good for you, or you will sway backward if you're not. If it's not.
So that would work for whatever food that we're about to take into our body. Is coffee good for me? And my mind will go,
yes.
Nope. Right.
Yeah. Here's the only thing. You can't use it for diagnosis, and you can't use it for medications, because sometimes our brain thinks that medications aren't good, but yet our body actually needs that support in that moment. So don't use it for medical diagnosis. Don't use it for life changes. Get really clear about what's true for you, body, mind, and soul. So
now, you could also do this with a complete, with somebody else who has absolutely no experience whatsoever with this. And let's talk about what that is, because our listeners may want to enlist the help of other people to help them figure out what's going on with a yes and no question.
Yes. So yes, you can, are you talking about like the arm test? You can have somebody else, if you extend your arm, somebody else can literally push on your arm. And if it holds strong, that's a yes. And if it goes weak, that's a no.
So
this is just how our bodies react.
Of a test of a kind of question that they would ask to get a yes or a no, right?
I mean, they could say, is broccoli good for me? Is broccoli in my highest and best interest? And then you would get a yes or a no. You can do the same thing with sugar, right? Any of those things, you can be able to ask that. So when I use muscle testing with Lift, this is my book. This is a book, and on every page, there are positive and negative statements. And so I use muscle testing to figure out which page we need to be on, in which section, and then which statement. And then we use muscle testing to have somebody actually read the statements to know which one is active in our unconscious mind, which one we believe to be true, and which one is actually not true according to our unconscious mind. So then we know what we need to heal in that moment.
So in other words, if you were asking a question like, do I deserve the treatment I got from XYZ person, right?
Yes.
So, because we could have internalized that, well, I lied to him, or I was, I did something to deserve this. So of course I deserve it. So if there's a conscious mind saying yes, we did, but we would not necessarily test positive to something like that, because we're tapping into our superconscious. We're tapping into that
Yeah.
Christ consciousness.
And it's ideal to test a statement versus a question, because a question can leave more open to interpretation, because your conscious brain goes, yes, you deserved it because of all the old programming.
Right.
But if you say, I deserve to be abused and punished because I am imperfect, your body's going to go, nope.
Nope.
Right? Now, it might actually give you a yes. That means we get to change the unconscious mind, because some of that we have internalized. We have internalized that I'm not good. I mean, think about how many kids grow up with shame, right? We don't grow up just with guilt, but we go, I'm a bad kid. No, you did something bad, but you're not a bad kid. You made a choice that wasn't positive. But it's the internalization of those beliefs at our core, at the unconscious level, that is constantly running the show. Like, everyone I love is going to leave me. I had bursts of that at a conscious level after I saw the pattern erupt in my life, but I didn't know that until I was in my I didn't have a conscious awareness of that until I was in my 20s, and I could look back and see the pattern of what had happened over the course of my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And you know, what's interesting is what you were just talking about this little kid. The little kid could also be thinking, you know, well, if I'd been a better kid, my parents wouldn't have gotten a divorce, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so that trauma that goes on in our minds, you know, in our subconscious, is acting out. Now,
Yep.
what do? How does lift get us out of? How does it lift us out of this?
Yeah, so lift is just amazing. So I've gone on to become advanced practitioner, master practitioner, and now I actually am a co-creator with Brian Eastman as far as more developing this more. And so I'm super honored to be able to do that, because it has made such a massive impact in my life. So what lift does is it looks at it. We identify the statement that needs to be healed. Then I have the person who is being healed, who's choosing that. I have them read the statements out loud, and we test which ones are active and which ones are not active. Then we look at what parts of us need to be healed. Lift is so amazing because it is a permanent healing. For every belief that we do, it is locked in place permanently, because we heal the individual. We heal the little one inside of us, that younger version of us that believed that to be true. We heal the ancestry, where that belief originated sometimes, or the soul ancestry of where that belief originated. And then there's other energies that are around us. Whether you believe in them or not, they are there. Things like spirits and entities and attachments. Well, these guys like to glom on and amplify the amount of reactions we have, the intensity that we feel a negative belief, the intensity of the emotion that we feel. So we heal for them too, and then they go away. So they don't bother us anymore. We don't feel that anymore.
Oh my goodness, we just went whoa.
I told you.
Way. I think we were at the edge of that limb and actually fell off that limb, until you start to internalize this and start going, that message feels right. We're getting that message. It's coming right in through the heart chakras, all the way down into meridians. My head is tingling. I'm just so delighted that we're having this conversation, because so many people are suffering, Jen. So many people are carrying the weight on their shoulders of their ancestors, and they don't even know why. They don't even know where it came from. Why do I feel this? Why do I feel worthless? Why don't I feel like I can? And sometimes we can be literally on the precipice of our success, and yet something keeps us from being able to step into our greatness. And the fact that you just said we can permanently heal this, not only for ourselves, but for those, because everything is energy around us. Yeah. Everything can be healed. Oh my goodness sakes. Oh my goodness sakes.
Linda, it is so powerful. Like, I think about where I was 5 years ago before I had Lyft, and I think about where my life is at now. I was walking around with such a lack of safety and hope and my own worth. And I didn't realize it, because I had the facade. Like, I had people go, man, you're too perfect. You're too good. You're too this. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like I show up and I have such anxiety. Like, am I going to say the right thing? How am I going to show up? Will they like me? I'm in my
Oh,
30s doing this, my 40s doing this. And I had been public speaking and I had leading and managing teams and everything else. But I didn't feel that in my body. I felt all of that crap that I've been carrying around for decades.
the stuff that you're describing, which we have characterized societally as, the imposter syndrome. And I've never understood what is the imposter syndrome sense of what you just described. You're in a leadership capacity, you're leading, and yet there's this hidden reptile back there going, you don't deserve to be here, Jen. I don't know what you're doing. Why are
And like,
you even doing that?
yeah, somebody would give me a compliment and it felt like, you've seen a quarry before, like a massive hole in the ground that they dig rock out of.
Yep.
When somebody would give me a compliment, it was like throwing a drop of water into that quarry. It wouldn't land. I couldn't feel that because I had such emptiness inside. And now I get to show up like I am such a different mom. I'm such a different person. I am so wholehearted and able to be in a space of vulnerability. Like any of the stuff I've shared today would never have come out of my mouth 5, 6, 7 years ago because I was so insecure about what attack was going to come next, how I would be criticized, if I would be liked, was I lovable, all of those things. And I don't have that anymore.
Wow. I had no idea how magical you were going to be today. And I am shocked that I didn't have you on before, but you've got a few things for our listeners today, for them to understand a few hacks and things that will help them. But I really want to know, how do they reach you, Jen? Because I know listeners, and I have a few on right now, and thank you all for being here. But those that will listen to this later, you've got things that are bothering you. You know you want to get them out. You have no idea where this is coming from. What would it feel like for you to be able to finally take it off and not have to put it back on? The coat of shame, the coat of guilt, the coat of not being enough, the coat of fill in the blank. Wouldn't that be magical? I want to invite you all to contact Jen. How? Quick. How did they get a hold of you, Jen? Tell them.
Yeah, so you can follow me on social. I'm Jen Beck Complete Health, just about every channel. You can schedule if this really speaks to you and you're in a place where you're ready, like, oh, I'm done with the struggle. I am ready to create a life that I love and I want the health, and you want to love life again and feel it and own it. You can schedule a time with me at talkwithjenbeck.com. I'll just ask you a couple questions. I'll give you a link to my calendar. I only have about 5 of these a week. So if it speaks to you, please jump on. I would love to support you. If you have specific questions, you can email me at jen@completehealthrevolution.com.
Jen, thank you so much. We've got something for our listeners, 5 health hacks for busy people. But listen, if you've got that, you want that one life hack that gets you back on track, contact Jen. Jen, I can't believe our time is up. We could talk for another hour.
So fast.
On this topic. Oh my God, I can't even believe it. Thank you so much for being a guest with me today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Linda. This has been phenomenal, and I love what you're doing and how you're helping people. You have a brilliant show, and I'm super excited that I was able to be a guest on it.
My pleasure. Thank you. And thank you all for, I told you, I promised you we would have somebody awesome, and didn't she just deliver? Stay tuned with me next week. Check in. We got more stuff to show you. Do you like to talk about money? If you do and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindak360.com.